Hi, everybody. I'm going to ask you to stand up just for a moment. Could you stand up? Thank you. Can you turn around and look at the person behind you and say to them from your heart, "You are a brave soul"? Good. Now turn back around. Look at the person to your left and look at the person to your right and repeat that. Tell them from your heart, "You are a brave soul." Good. And now finally, take your hand and place it on your heart and say to yourself, I am a brave soul. Good. Thank you. Now you can take your seat again. As you sit down, I want you to have an awareness that we will never have this moment again, so we had best make the most of it. While other sessions are going on simultaneously to this one, I feel the brave souls are in this room, and so I just wanted to acknowledge that out loud. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being brave. So I teach an extended course called Good Life, Good Death, and I have 14 minutes and the clock is ticking. I don't have much time with you, so I have my notes prepared because this is a special talk. Every word counts. We have to get real with each other very quickly, everybody. So our journey tonight is not for the faint of heart. In fact, it is downright scary, and it's okay to admit that, largely because of what dying has come to mean and look like in America. We fear, for good reason, what it's going to look like for us, how long it will last, how painful it may be, what things might be done to us against our wishes. We fear we won't be able to control it, that we won't understand it, that not only will it not be pretty, it'll be downright ugly. That we may not be able to talk, write, see, think, move, or even control our bodily functions. That we may feel trapped, imprisoned, stuck in the most primal and hellish of ways for what may feel like an eternity. We fear, and we should, what threatens to annihilate us. What if I told you that you don't have to be as afraid, worried, and concerned as you might be right now? Would you even believe that that was possible? What if instead you could know without a shadow of a doubt that your family would be by your side as you transitioned, that they would be the ones to wash, dress, and prepare your body, to carry and gently lay you in the ground on land owned by your family for generations, and that every few years they would actually exhume your body, only to redress your bones in the finest silk cloth while applying perfumed essential oils and singing love songs in your native tongue the entire time, only to gently place you back in the family crypt. What if they protected your body, guided your spirit to the other side, followed customs that had been passed down in your family for generations, customs you treasured, followed, and believed in? What if you knew they would dance with you, yes, with your bones, after you had died? They would tell you the stories of what's been happening with the family since you passed away, but mostly they would never forget you. Might you more peacefully be able to surrender to the great mystery called death? This is how, actually, everyone, this is how the Malagasy people of Madagascar honor death and their loved ones. It's a ritual called Famarian, which translates as the turning of the bones, one of the most beautiful rituals and customs I've ever encountered. How might you die then if you lived a traditional life in Tibet as a Buddhist practitioner, man or woman, someone connected to the earth, to a monastery or practice center, to teachers, a practice community or sangha of like-minded souls, rituals, blessings, and teachings? Being a Tibetan Buddhist, you would have studied and prepared for your own death in precise ways, script-like, for a long time, so much so that these practices would have become second nature to you. Moreover, you would have witnessed in close proximity old age, illness, and death in various stages and forms right in your own home. As your own death approaches, a trusted family member or teacher would coach you bedside through the various bardos or stations of progression to your new energetic incarnation. You would recognize the lame Lama Chagdu Tulku Rinpoche, who said of death, "When you've got to go to the bathroom, it's too late to build a latrine." And so the practices that help prepare you to die would have been mentored in you from the time you were a child. What a difference culture makes to how we experience and think about death. You would know these words, spoken by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to be true, since death is the state when all the gross levels of energy and consciousness have been dissolved and only the subtle energies and consciousness remain. It is possible for an advanced yogin to meditatively induce a state which is almost identical to the actual experience of death. Normally in our lives, the Dalai Lama continues, if we know that we're going to be confronted by a difficult or unfamiliar situation, we prepare and train ourselves for such a circumstance in advance, so that when the event actually happens, we're fully prepared. The rehearsal of the processes of death and those of the intermediate state and the emergence into a future existence lies at the very heart of the path in what is referred to as the highest yoga tantra. These practices are part of my daily practice, says the Dalai Lama, and because of this, I somehow feel a sense of excitement when I think about the experience of death. That's the end of his quote. After all, everyone, it is a law of physics that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transformed, right? Where is the little girl or the little boy you, right? Where is the you of 5 years ago? How would you die then if, like my teacher, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, who is 88 years old and can trace his lineage back 42 generations, you embraced the fact that you, that's something we call you, where are you located? You were never born, that you will never die, that you are not locatable as a separate, distinct, definable entity as such. That might be a little hard to work with, so hang on. That you, everyone, as a human being, you are made of non-human elements. Almost 99% of the mass of the human body made up of these 6 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. Less than 1% is composed of potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, and magnesium. I did not mention you. You will not find you on the periodic chart, right? Where are you located? Where are you located in the body? And what about all of your ancestors? You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for them. Tracing back to the beginning of time, these ancestors reside in your cellular structure, in your DNA. Wow, it's getting kind of crowded in here. How would you die then, knowing that everything and everyone that you ever gave your love and energy to remains as such, evolves as such, transforms as such, lives on as such. We're all compost, everybody. We all have a continuation body. The great teacher, your students are part of your continuation body. The great doctor, your patients are part of your continuation body. How would you die then with that sort of really felt awareness? The first insight then is you must decide what you believe. You can't wait until you're dying, everyone, to decide what you believe. You got to decide that as soon as possible. And then you have to order your life such that your thoughts and your behaviors, your habit patterns, and your character reflect that. My grandmother taught me this, who at 103 grew ever more beautiful as she inched her way toward death. I kept calling people in the room saying, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" She just keeps getting more and more beautiful. From time to time, she would utter as if coming up for air from deep within the mystery, and all she would say is, "Jesus, if you'll have me, I'm ready to come to you." You see, she had lived her entire life in anticipation of the day she would die and in the security of knowing the disposition of her soul. She had ordered her life properly. That's how important it was to her. As a devout Christian, there was great joy in her being as she came closer and closer to death. She was not afraid. There was profound peace and surrender. And her home-going service, what you call a funeral or memorial service, was a deep, expressive, joy-filled celebration of her life and not a mourning of her passing, because she had gone home to be with the Lord, and we all knew that. Months later, while studying with the beautiful soul, Mathieu Ricard, and the great neuroscientist, Dr. Richie Davidson, I pulled Mathieu aside and I asked him about what I witnessed with my grandmother, because it was so spectacular. I had been at many, many deaths and had never seen anything like it before. He said he had seen it too, only rarely and with great souls who transitioned well. This ever-building, radiant luminosity that culminates in what we call death. My apprenticeship with death was cast upon me as a little girl of only 7 years old when I stood groggy-eyed as a team of firefighters entered our home, went up the stairs on one cold wintry morning, and came back down carrying my father's body strapped to a stretcher. They placed him into the arms of an ambulance and drove off, never returning him to our home or to our care. He died a week later. I used to write him letters addressed to heaven because all I was told was that he had gone to heaven. And I thought of heaven as a Disneyland type place. Gold paved streets, angels singing, God on his big throne, determining the fate of people. And I knew how much my father loved us and that he would never leave us without coming back to us. And so I wrote him a letter, addressed it to heaven every day. You have to know what you believe to have a good death. This apprenticeship with death continued when at the age of 11, one of my dear classmates suddenly passed away. The students in our class went to the wake and funeral. It was my first because my mother had thought my sister and me too young to attend that of my father. My friend lay in this casket, looking all pretty, like she was alive, dressed for a party, only sleeping. I was convinced that straight away, at any moment, she was going to sit right up in that casket, turn her head toward us mourners and say hello to everybody, climb out and invite us to join arms and skip home together, kind of like Dorothy, Toto, and the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. That is the mind of a child relating to death. Can't fathom eternity, can't fathom forever, can't fathom never. Instead, my friend never moved. We left her alone in the funeral home that night, which felt like a soul abandonment I couldn't quite reconcile. You see, I could have been the one, but instead it was the great Chilean author Isabel Allende describing her complete and utter despair as she could do nothing but witness and love her 28-year-old daughter Paula as she passed away from medical error and a rare genetic disorder. How years later, as Allende's first grandchild was being born, she couldn't resist placing her head between her daughter-in-law's parted legs as the baby crowned, reaching down, pleading with the newborn, "Tell me where you have come from. I need to know." Years before, I sat in a Smith College classroom with poet and the great word sorcerer Sonia Sanchez as my teacher, absorbed in her definition of man and woman as the infinite conceiving mind housed in a human body. That statement connected the dots for me because I had wondered where that mind had gone since my father died when I was 7. I never stopped looking for it. I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, not because I wanted to, but because I had to, and I did. And it made all the sense in the world to me because I had lived through the transference of consciousness as my mother died. I felt the exact moment when she left her body and it became an empty house. Nobody home, gone, gone, gone beyond the beyond. I received confirmation of these truths when my second dad, who was very Zen and heavily influenced by Alan Watts and the wisdom of insecurity, looked me squarely in the eye and said not to worry, that he knew he was dying, that he wasn't afraid, that in fact he was looking forward to death as the great adventure. Like Isabel Allende, I questioned death relentlessly because death kept coming for the people who made my world. I had no choice but to study hard and become intimate with death because I had to know where my people went. I had to enter the belly of death to learn and know what I believed to be true and what I share with you now with full confidence. And so it is not only an honor and a privilege, it is my duty as an elder, everyone. We've forgotten that role in America, the duty of the elder to share what we know about death in the hopes that it might help you with your preparation. I dedicate the merit of our time together to help alleviate the suffering of all beings in all realms. This wisdom comes through me from over 50 years of companioning death with family, friends, students, and dear souls, including a personal journey I took 11 years ago in the form of cancer. So, come to terms with who you are and what you believe sooner rather than later. No death proceeds exactly like you think it's going to. Yours will likely be no exception. Cultivate a mind that lets go, that's flexible, that knows how to roll. Death is certain. Plato admonished, practice dying. Figure out what this means to you and do it. Learn to give things away, pare down, say goodbye, simplify, release expectation, become all right with what is and with what isn't. Find a good meditation teacher and establish a daily practice, as this helps you become familiar with the contents of your mind and your default habit patterns, which will surely take over as you pass away. You see, the body is the container, everybody. Where's the consciousness going? That's something called you. Where's that going? Your practice will help you become familiar with the type of spaciousness and boundarylessness you may well experience as you die. Get your affairs in order, and I'm not just talking about your paperwork, although that's critically important too. I'm talking about resolving your unfinished business. You know what I mean. Don't leave a mess. Speak your most profound, meaningful truth to whoever needs to hear it, whether they are dead or alive, while you still can. I love you. I need you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. Bless you. Create a good life, good death box or some container that holds everything your friends and loved ones needs to know about your preferred dying experience and death wishes. Dr. Broke has talked about that already. This is sage advice, everybody, and a lot of you are really young, but live these days as if they are the good old days, because they are, everyone. These are the good old days. Tomorrow's not promised. The quality of tomorrow is not promised. The concept of good life and good death, those concepts they are interrelated. They impact each other. Know your mantra. Mantra meaning mind protection, that best last thought for things to help you come back to yourself if things go sideways in the decomposition of the body in the dying process. Know that best last thought. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. Practice it daily. Take solace in the fact that you didn't have to consciously do anything to be born. Isn't that great? You didn't have to tell your mom, okay, breathe, contract, push. And so it is with death. Death will take care of you. Finally, know that we can never be fully prepared for death, but we can be better prepared than we are now. Focus on the next step in your preparation. Make it personal. Do that and continue to be brave. May peace and peace and peace be everywhere, especially inside of you and especially as you die. Thank you. Namaste.